Okay. As the title says, this is interesting problems, and very specifically in India, because these logistic problems are very different in different countries. So I would like to focus specifically for the Indian, or India as a country. Okay. Yeah. See, first, our perception about logistics, our interaction with this is when we move from one place to another place, we call a truck, move goods. Our perception of the size of this industry is not so large. It's actually, when I got into it, it's really such a mind boggling kind of a number for us even to talk about it or deal with it. When we say 8 to 9% of the Indian GDP is logistics, that's really huge. Just to give you a random number, the number of trucks just carrying petroleum products in India. I mean, any guess anyone can? There are 7 lakh trucks just carrying petroleum. I mean, nothing else. So if you scale it to all the products that are moving from one place to another place, I mean, it's just a mind-boggling number. So we as a country want to be a manufacturing hub, and for us logistics is one of the first few things that we have to address. And India as a country, we are moving in that direction. There are a whole lot of things that are happening which I'll talk about, which uh, are all in the direction of addressing these issues. So for us, if you look at the size, yeah. So the logistic by revenue point of view, if you take, it's about 360 billion. I mean, these days we talk about billion and very casually, but 360 billion is one heck of a lot of revenue on an annual basis, and this is US dollars. And most of it, about 91% of it, is only on rail and road. And this is purely the lay of the land, or the topography of the country, that decides what is that percentage. And this changes completely from country to country. For if you take Russia, it is very dominantly on rail. If you take US and India, it's about the same. If you take Japan, most of it is on water. So this has nothing to do with, I mean, it's purely the lay of the land that decides what is that percentage. And for India, right now, rail takes only 18%, road is about 73%. The Indian government wants to bring down the road from 73 to 65 as a first target. We want to do even better than that. One of the reasons for that is rail on a long haul is 4 times cheaper than road. In spite of that, we have such a high percentage that goes on road, which is a very, very inefficient. I mean, it's an indicator that our logistics are not very efficient. So we are about between 8 and 9. A very efficient system would bring it down to 6.5. I mean, that's the calculation. So we have to, there are attempts to move a lot of it to rail. So on short haul, road is more effective. One, I mean, it's the reasons are very obvious. Road cannot, rail cannot deliver door to door. So the last mile has to be on road. Whereas rail on a long haul, point to point, between metros or whatever, that works out the most efficient way of transporting goods. So this is what the government of India is doing. We'll see what exactly is happening. So one, the pros and cons, if you just compare, the reason why we are doing it is when we are designing a logistic system for India, we have to keep these factors in mind. So that is the reason we have to know exactly the landscape of that entire industry. So from a connectivity point of view, if you just take two metros, the fastest connectivity is by rail. The I'm not saying currently, the possible fastest connection is by rail. It is cheaper, it's the cheapest by a factor of 4. It is the safest in some categories. So I'll come to the safety of the goods transported. We'll talk about what happens. In spite of all these factors, rail is not the most preferred by a lot of companies. There are many reasons. One is the unpredictability. Okay, before I come to, so one is the high unpredictability. To solve this problem, okay, when I say high unpredictability, if I ship something today, I'm not 100% sure when it will be delivered at the other end. The reason is all the railway tracks, the passenger trains take the priority. Most of the goods train are left on the side, and only during the lean periods they get to move on the track. That is one of the main. One second, I just need some water. It's a very dry. Yeah. One of the reason is that, and today with the density of the passenger traffic increasing so high, the time period that the goods train really gets to move is very, very less. So the unpredictability goes very high. So one of the way of solving this problem is the dedicated freight corridors that the railways has set up. What are these dedicated freight corridors are? On these tracks, only freight trains will run. No passenger train will be allowed on those tracks. One is that. Then these tracks are designed specially to take very heavy load. Third, they have raised the height of the line, the electric line, so that they can put one container on top of another container. So the double container trains can move. And these corridors take trains which are very, very long. There are trains, these are called anacondas or something like that. These are up to 4 kilometers long trains, up to 200 wagons. So these are specially designed, or rather measures the country is taking to shift the needle towards the rail. The other part is low accessibility across the country. Now you can join 2 cities, or you can join probably 4 cities. What about the points which are in between? So that becomes, you cannot join the whole country by a network of rail, and that too with freight corridors. So what happens is you have to have multimodal logistic parks. So goods have to be taken from a train and put on road, on a truck. So this is called transshipment. So this poses a very special problem. So one of the things for transshipment is we necessarily have to containerize the train goods movement. So this is very important. Bulk goods, not a problem. It can be handled by train. But if you have to do transshipment, like when I say, I don't know how many of you are exposed to movement of large volume, may not be much. If you take a thermal power, coal which comes there, the rail directly comes into the thermal plant, basically. And they have very special handling equipment where they take the entire wagon of coal and they use wagon tippler. They just turn the whole wagon upside down. So there are special equipment handling all this. But if I am sending, say, soaps or shampoos or whatever, I can't do that kind of material handling. It's a completely different way that it has to be handled. So these they necessarily have to be put on containers or cars or some of these kind of things. So you need special container handling equipment, special cranes that move containers. So these are the multimodal logistic parks will have to be equipped with a whole lot of these things. So there is a whole lot of redesign that needs to happen for this kind of change if you have to be a manufacturing hub. So on the other side, when we take road, what are the advantages of a road? So one is door to door. When I say door to door, it is factory to factory, the production site to another consumer site or a distribution point or a warehouse. One more point, in the entire logistics space, there are two parts. One is the transport, the other is the warehousing. The warehousing is about 10% of the total. 90% is the transport part. So the predictability of transport by road is much higher. If it goes on a particular day, given a couple of hours up or down, the goods will reach there. So where is this high predictability becomes, when does it become very important? Especially for agriculture produce, where the stock is live or it's a perishable. If it leaves, say, if you take Andhra and it has to reach Calcutta to the port or whatever, be it vegetables or fruits or Kashmir to other places, these are perishables and they have a kind of they have to reach within a certain time. They can't handle unpredictability. So this is very important. Safety is another area. So if I suppose you have a truck, yeah, I would say about 80-90% of the goods both are possible. It's a very small percentage that determines by itself whether it goes by train or road. So it's a common problem across generally. Like apples, they can go both by road or rail, isn't an issue. But the factor is the predictability has to be very high out there. Yeah, coming back to safety, if I have a container load of, say, iPhones that have to go, the safety becomes absolutely of utmost concern. There are a whole lot of mafias which, if it goes by road, for instance, and say, okay, iPhone, it's say made in Hosur and comes to Chennai to the port. But if or tires, for instance, they cross through Madhya Pradesh or any of these, there are mafias which just break open the doors, the containers, and take away. Because the value of the container which contains all the tires, it runs into lakhs. It's so huge. It's about 1 crore worth of material sitting out there. Or if you take TVs, for instance, flat screen TVs being transported in a container, safety becomes a very, very huge problem. So the choice of train or road is also determined because of the safety part of it. So there are multiple factors out there. Another one is access to mechanized handling. Most of the road transport, we don't have mechanized handling of the containers or mechanized handling of the goods. Most of the time, it's actually people who walk into the truck, pick up the material and transport it. So we still haven't developed those kind of systems. I mean, the developed countries have it, quite a bit of it. Even if you take bottles or food, beverages, everything is mechanized in the developed countries. Here we don't have that. So that's another area where a whole lot of development has to take place. So, so those are the cons part of it. But still, for the mid and the last mile, road is always it's the only option available for the last mile anyway. And for the mid mile, it's a choice, but they prefer road for short distances because rail always has a high fixed cost. The initial cost is very high. So transshipment is another major issue. Most companies do not want their goods to be taken out from one transport carrier to another, because that's where pilferage, breakage, everything happens. So in fact, a lot of companies, they put a condition that it will not be transshipped. I mean, it's a very common thing. I want to send my car from here to, say, Calcutta. The truck which comes and loads my car there is not the same truck that delivers on the other side. Very rare. Whereas in the developed countries, that's exactly what happens. When you take the picture, when you receive it, that's exactly the same truck will come. Because our systems are still not so advanced. So here, what they do is transshipment. They'll take it to a yard, put it there. So I'll come to that whole process, what happens in this country, how it really happens. So transshipment becomes a major challenge for most of the goods. So another change that is happening, you can see it in the recent times. The West, what they have done is, most of the trucks there are not the kind of trucks that we see on the road here. These are separated, the cab and the trailer is always separated. The, the trailer is a container typically. So now what they do on long haul, they separate out the cab. The container with the wheels is taken by a crane and put on a train. The train does the long haul part. At the other end, crane just takes it, puts it, a new cab connects with it, and it's on the road direct. So the reason for doing it is the transshipment time of taking out a goods from a train and putting it into a truck, that is reduced. Now, if you look at the trucks that we have, this is not possible, the truck that you come across. So what the Indian government or a lot of people have done is, they have taken the entire truck along with the cab and put it on the train. So you can see a lot of trains today where a whole lot of trucks fully loaded are sitting on the train. When I say it's on the wagon. So, sorry? Yeah. So that's one thing that is done, but this also causes it's an unnecessary weight being shipped, that engine and the whole cab and everything. So then the high-speed freight corridors we spoke about. Then the new development of expressways, highways. I mean, most of us like to believe it is all for us to drive our cars fast, but that's really not the reason. The primary reason for that is for the predictable movement of goods. The long trailer trucks cannot move on the small roads. So they have to have these broad roads with those specified turning radiuses and all that. So, and those are the new roads which are happening in the country, and definitely it will change. And typically what they do is, they make a ring around a city, and these are typically connecting the ports or the they're connecting the major production points or the ports. So like for Chennai, the peripheral road which is coming, or the expressway between Bangalore and Chennai, that's actually going to connect to the port. So another major area where a whole lot of change that has to happen is documentation. When any goods are moved from one place to another, The amount of documentation involved, the taxation and everything is so huge. And when you combine rail and road, it even becomes more complex. Okay, now we get closer to what the real issues are. So, as we said, road transport is one of the major transport mode for India. There are about 8.5 million trucks in the country, which move about 70 plus percentage of all the goods. Now, the biggest challenge where anything, if we design any system, it comes in the next point where 85% of these 8.5 million trucks are owned by single owners who own 2 trucks, 3 trucks, 1 truck, or less than 5 trucks. The entire organized segment of trucks is less than 15%. And that is where all the challenges really come. And if you have only 5 trucks, you really can't have a computerized system working for you. So these are just individuals running their own way of things, and that makes it extremely inefficient. But all of them are mobile savvy. All of them know how to use maps. All of them know how to use mobile applications. So most of the systems that are designed for these have to keep these factors in mind. And most of them operate through agents. So I'll come to the whole logistic, how it runs in India. So if you take any town, it has multiple truck gathering points. So if you take Chennai, I think somewhere near the central railway station, Mint, I think, or Coimbatore, or there are 4 5 points will be there. All the trucks that come in different direction, they all just collect there. They have their agents sitting there. They'll come and say, okay, this is, they just report there. That person, and he has a preferred destination to go. If he has come from Gujarat to Chennai, his first choice of going back is Gujarat. I mean, if you tell him to go to Calcutta, that is not his first choice. So, keeping that, so what they do is they come to the agent or broker or whatever you call, and that guy has a friendly network. And within that friendly network, he tries to find out if there is a load or a shipper who wants to send anything to, say, Gujarat, for instance. Now, to get that particular load is a challenge for him. There might be people who actually want to send the load to Gujarat, but he is not in that area. He's sitting somewhere else, and he never gets to know this person is actually wanting to go to Gujarat. So these two people never get to meet. So this is one of the major challenges. As a result, what happens? A truck actually runs on the road only for 15 days on an average. The other 15 days is waiting for someone to give him something to carry. Primarily because there is no computerization trying to get all the information together. So in the organized segment, it is primarily fixed kind of contracts. Like if you take oil or cement or chemicals, water, milk, they can only do that job. You can't use that truck for anything else. So they have fixed contracts, fixed agreements with companies. So they deal with them. So it's so there is a possibility or a chance for them to get a lot more organized. But if it's a free goods that they want to ship, it becomes a major challenge for them. So the large transport companies, They have computer. You'll see quite a lot of companies, Transport Corporation of India, Delivery. There are a whole lot of these companies. They have reasonably good computerized systems and everything. But then again, keep in mind that's only 15% of the entire logistic supply chain. The other 85% is still in the unorganized segment. So, who are all the players in this entire ecosystem? So, we have load providers, they're also called shippers. These are typically FMCGs, farmers, capital goods, high value goods, whoever. Then you have a transporter, you have a fleet owner who's a truck owner, or these are small fleet, big, medium, large fleets that are possible. There are agents, there are drivers. These are all the players. Now, I'll take an example. If you take a company like Hindustan Levers or some FMCG for that matter, any guess what is their transport bill? If you take Hindustan Levers, which is one of the main FMCGs, it's 2,500 crores. So that's a huge number just for one company. So how do they do it? So you have to understand this. So what they do is, it's almost 1,000 people department that runs it. They have, their goods have to go to every corner of the country. So they have production centers, say 4, 5, 6, whatever. So what they do is they divide these into lanes. And these lanes, they put it for bidding. So all the transport companies bid for it. Now, they're very smart. They have their logistic percentage cost on the GDP number that I gave, 8.5 to 9 is norm. They have achieved 6.5. And why are they efficient? I'll tell you. So what they do, they bid. And it's an open bidding system. They'll have 25, 30 lanes or whatever. How they do it is, see, most of them, say if it's Bangalore, Chennai, Bangalore, Bombay, whatever, these routes are profitable routes, or the goods are very predictable on these routes. But if it has to go to some unknown town, it's not predictable. So what happens is most people don't bid for those. So over a period of time, what they did was they started bundling. There'll be 1 or 2 profitable routes, so 5 or 6 non-profitable routes that they bundle. When I say non-profitable, okay, I'll come to that. So when they bundle this, obviously they'll take the lowest bidder, and the guy who bids for it, he has to weigh the possibilities of how much money he'll lose in the non-profitable one, how much money he'll make on the profitable route. So he bids. Now he has bid for say 4, 5 routes. He's taken the order at some price. So there are penalties for if he does not deliver within time. He has to provide so many number of trucks on a daily basis, or what, every day they'll give a schedule. So you are, imagine you are a transporter, you have taken the order from Hindustan Levers, and you have to give the trucks. You may not own all the trucks. You may own say 50%, and 50% you may have to take it from the spot market, or from this single truck owners or small truck owners. You have to take it from there. Now here what happens is, for your trucks it's fine. When you have to go to the market to take the trucks from someone else, that guy knows that you have a penalty to pay if you don't deliver. He will ask for a price which is high. and you can't afford it. So it's a bidding system. There he goes to the spot market. So the guy will say, I will not give below 25,000 or 30,000, whatever that number is. So this guy keeps waiting, and he knows that if he doesn't deliver this, I mean, there is a penalty coming to him. So he agrees for a higher price. So this is, those people know. So now what happens is, so there is an example of a company which said, this is a black buck. What they did was, they'll go to all these big companies, they'll bid, underbid, or whatever. They'll pick up whole lot of orders, thinking these are called asset light companies. So they'll bid for these orders. So now they have to deliver. So they'll go to the market and say, I'll give you loads, I'll give you on a schedule like this. And those guys also, and these guys have taken at a very low price. The guys know that these people have taken on a low price. So they'll start pushing the price up. So it's a battle of what is the right price. So this is one model. So if you take Blackbuck, for instance, they have a revenue of something like 2,000 crores. But year on year, they make a loss of 300 to 400 crores. So this is a battle that happens on the ground. So another company said, okay, we will buy 1,000 trucks and try to do business, which is Rivigo. They just filed for bankruptcy. Here what happens is, if they don't get load, if the truck is not on the road, they are losing money on a daily basis. The only way you make money is when it's moving. And those people, the other side of it knows. So they'll hold on that this guy will come any day. So this is, it's actually a game. It's a game theory that really works in this whole thing. So that is one. Another thing is, anyone who is asked to take a load to another point, say some unknown place, some Mayiladuthurai or something like that, if you take a Tamil Nadu place. So I don't know what return load, the chance of getting a return load from there is almost zero. So I will have to charge double return fare, like your cab guy says, sir, return fare, Beku, or So this is what happens. So on a truck, see, on a cab basis, from 1,000 becoming 2,000 is not a problem, but a 30,000 becoming 60,000 is an issue. So that is something that needs again a balance somewhere. So then balance, oh sorry. Hey, what's happening? How do I go back? Yeah. So balancing profit and loss making trips. So when you bid to a company like Hindustan Levers, how should I bid? How much should I bid? That's a big question again. Because I know some lanes are not profit making, some lanes are loss making. How much loss will I make? How much profit can I make? So that, how do you advise? Can your system advise the bidder how much he should bid for that? A lot of companies end up making loss, or they are on very thin margins. So these are good and bad lanes. Then combination of own and contract trucks. So what is the picture we have? So if I take a shipper or a load provider, he needs X number of trucks on a daily basis, going on Y routes or N routes. Now a truck has different states. If a truck reaches, suppose I am a trucker, I say I've got the order to go and collect something from this company factory. It's not that I can just walk in, pick up the load like that. So there are already hundreds waiting in the line. There is a loading platform, it takes certain time. There is a schedule, he'll have to wait till his turn comes. Then there is a loading time, documentation time. Then after that, he starts, same thing for the unloading. It takes that much time. He announces his arrival, then someone takes note of it. He says, okay, you come, some fire. He comes in the morning, they'll say, okay, only 4 o'clock, the yard will be empty for you to unload. So till then he's waiting. And then the unloading time, the unloader may come, may not come, there, not there. So all these are wait times for him. So these are different states through which the truck goes. After he finishes, there is an inspection, whether the material is damaged, not damaged, insurance clearance, all that has to happen. Only then the payment he gets. So how the payment is made is, suppose his bid is 20,000. They just give him 10,000, say, okay, go deliver the material. That 10,000 takes care of his fuel and daily living expenses. He has to reach the other end, and he has to go through this entire unloading processes, steps. If after the insurance and everyone clears that everything is okay, only then he'll get the money. And in case of a transport, this is the driver. In case of a transporter, unless he does say 100 trips or something like that and submits the bills, he won't get the money. So that's that big usual business cycle, how it happens. So this, so there are different states through which, I mean, why I'm bringing this topic is, when we programmed this whole thing, we first did something and then we had to resort back to state machines, because the number of states are so huge, and unless you do it that way, it doesn't work out. So there is a loading sequence, then reporting. So if you look at transporters, they have to make the trucks available, whether it's own or not. They have to go to a spot market. If they have their own trucks, see, their own trucks may not be available. A lot of times this happens. They may already be on a trip somewhere. So he has to go to the spot market and get trucks. So this is another bidding system. And they have to get a price for the trip from the spot market. Then after that, a lot of times what happens is, people say, yes, I'll give you a truck, but then he doesn't really have the truck. It's still 4 or 5 hours away and it's on the way. So that waiting time, how he handles that. So all these are real issues. Then what happens is, the truck is there, but the driver is not there because he's just driven some 12 hours and he's not available. So that is why a truck and a driver are separated out completely. So they get another driver, give this truck and ask him to take it. So that separation between driver and truck happens here. The driver management is independent and the truck management is independent. And this varies up and down. It's a seller's market sometime, buyer's market sometime. What happens during the harvest season? All the trucks go into the agricultural side. These are perishables. They can't afford time loss. They have to go. And they're willing to pay a price for it. So what happens is, big companies like all these FMCGs, they find it very difficult to get trucks for on the spot market at that time, because all the trucks have gone into a particular area. So this is another challenge. This is a seasonal variations that happen. And these are major changes. And the prices can go, that's why I said, from 15 to 20,000 normal can go up to 40, 50,000 sometimes. So there's a spot booking price for that. So this is something where it's a market where I am in a production center where I have a lot of load. the end point, if it's a small town, what happens is there is no production, there are hardly any loads to carry from there. So now what do I do? Where do I go? Where are all these trucks have to go? So in a small town. So this is what I call point B. So if I take point A and point B, the production site, if I call as a point A, point B is where all the trucks have gone for delivery, but there are no return loads coming from there. So it's more a consumption center and not a production center. And many trucks have to return empty or wait for a long time to get a load. Then, so another huge factor here is the credentials of the driver. And the credentials of the truck and the driver, whether he has a license to move certain type of goods. There are a whole lot of regulations on this. There are regulations on what goods he can carry, what is on the licenses, the how many states he can cross. Not all trucks have the all India permit. So they have certain states. They go up to a particular end of that state and they do a transshipment, which they don't disclose many times. And the big companies don't want that. So to establish the credentials of both the truck and the driver, that becomes a very, very important thing. And a lot of time loads are available to destinations that you don't like to go. Could be for various reasons, or you're moving away from your hometown further. And so what happens is, preferred destination, the prices are low. Yeah. So I think, yeah, preferred destination prices go low always. So these are very thin margins. Difficult destinations, you make margins, but then you have other difficulties. Then, so it's basically a competitive situation. Now, I pictured this as point A and point B, but the reality is the B situation and A situation exists in every town. Because if you are not from here, from A, you have a different situation. If you are from A, you have a different situation to B. So that is the. So here, so when you have to design the bidding system and the routing problem, see, most of us think of routing from a Google perspective, which is the shortest route. That is really not an issue. Whether you spend 5 liters or 10 liters of more petrol is not the issue. Issue is at what price which destination offers me the best option. This is the real optimization that is required from, because given a very high price, I will go to any place. Or if it's a free ride, any shipper will take you. So the real optimization comes, what is the best price, what is the best you can get out of it. So because we don't have the computerized system, so if you have a real-time database of all the trucks present in every city, then you are a master of the whole thing, because you know precisely how many trucks want to go to point A or point B or point C, and I can very easily figure it out, who should get what and what is the best price. But that's really not the situation. We don't have the data, basically. We are blindly bidding and trying to get something out of it. So it's more of a gaming issue as to what is the other strategy, what is your strategy. So what is your best option at point A to take to point B, or go freely from point B to E on an empty load and try for something else from point E. So this is basically the whole scenario. So what price should a transporter bid for a bunch of lanes? What lane should the transporter bid for? Then having gone from point A to B, what is the trucker's best option? So this is basically a classic optimization problem. Then what is the probability? So here we are talking of probabilities. What is the probability of getting a load to any town and at what price? If you cut your price, the probability is higher. If you increase the price, the probability is low. So what is the right price at? So that is the entire structure of the problem statement. Yeah, I think I've covered quite a bit of it. So as a result of this is what is the net effect of the whole thing, that most, on an average, a truck in India runs for 15 days. 15 to 16 days is the average. So 15 days, it's just doing nothing. So that's a huge, it's a very inefficient system that we have. And from a bidding point of view, that agent that we spoke about, in fact, another loose word for that is a mafia. They are the people who make the maximum margin because they have the information. The trucker doesn't have, the shipper doesn't have that information. It's the agent, because everyone comes to him with the information and he's the one who makes most margins. And the trucker who actually carries the goods is always on a very wafer thin margin. So any system that we build is trying to take the agent's margin, who really doesn't deserve that margin, and give it to either the transporter or the shipper. Yeah, how do you trade off? What is the cost for idling versus picking up a load? So that trade-off we have to also manage. And drivers being away from home for long periods of time, so that's another issue. What is the optimum time? Yeah, I think broadly, I think keeping time in mind, I think you can go through the presentation. The points are fairly simple, but overall landscape of the logistics problems as in the country, as well as which way the solution, what is the solution we are looking at. I think, I hope I've been able to at least spell out something on that. And yeah, I think these are, if you have a system like Uber, I mean, just as an example, where you're connecting a passenger and a cab. So if you can connect a load and a truck, or a shipper and a transporter, with a system which has a database, I think that would be a wonderful thing to have. So that was the basis for us to start the company. Unfortunately, we did it 2 years before COVID. During COVID, all the roads were empty and nothing. All the movement came to a halt, and we had to kind of stop the whole thing because we are unable to sustain on that. Okay, so I think I'll just close it here. Any other? Yeah, I think documentation and all these things are very complex. I think I was telling you, even simple printing of a bill becomes a very complex problem in these situations. Basically, this is where the solution using these techniques is what we are looking at. Okay. Any specific questions? Maybe I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are questions, even the online audience can ask, pose your questions, and Mr. Brahmayya will be able to answer it. Question from you?
Yep. Great.
Transport exchange solution for most of these.
Yeah, that's a name, but you can call it an exchange, but what all does it do? Because exchange can only connect people. It can't, but more than that, you have to tell what is the optimum price, what is the value you are giving as an exchange.
People can bid on exchange and get pick up.
See, open bidding, that happens even today. But it's a game between the two of us, who wins. But if we have to add value, we can tell the shipper, okay, this is your best, this is a good price you should give. Or tell a trucker, you bid this, you will get the. You cannot disclose the opposite sides or competing sides information to each other. That's not right. You can advise as to what is the best option, what is the best strategy for both to make, or both. It's, you have to create a win-win strategy always, because your trust factor will disappear if you just take their information and give it to them, or their information, and you get the point. It's like a game of cards and you tell others what cards he has. That doesn't make sense. So everyone will disappear from the platform.
And this bidding happens every day, right?
Every,
Day,
hourly, hour to hour.
hour to hour.
That's exactly what happens in the
From a
yards.
software system point of view, there is a huge opportunity.
Exactly.
But, challenges would be adoption, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Because if there are middlemen or the agents, as you are calling,
Yeah. You can't wish, yeah, you can't wish him away. You have to make him party to the whole thing. So he gets a smaller piece. But then from a volume point of view, he'll get what he makes.
have other people tried? I mean, this is what Black Buck tried. It's like,
Yeah, a lot of people have
so
tried.
Black Buck tried to become the
No,
tried to
no,
become
no.
the middleman.
No. Black Buck actually got the orders. And they were trying to get the trucks and execute them. So that model didn't work. And just owning a fleet also didn't make sense.
That's what Rigo tried, and that also.
Yeah. So the existing companies, what they do, they have specialized goods and they keep servicing those set of customers.
Just wanted to understand what is the CIAS software as a service?
Huh.
Software as a service.
Service.
Another question: can we have some learnings from the developed countries to improve the Indian freight efficiency?
That's what I said.
The middlemen or brokers.
Yeah.
India, how it is happening in our side?
Yeah. So in the developed countries, it's the organized sector is the largest. We have a very peculiar problem that the unorganized segment is the largest. There you have FedEx, Blue Dart, those kind of UPA. These companies are so huge, billions and billions.
You depend on middlemen because we don't know the credential of the transporter. So we need to depend on somebody to
Correct.
get that.
We have a different problem to deal with. They have solved their problem. It's a different problem. Those solutions will not work.